Hello, this is Erin with The Joy in Pens and Paper, and I have very inky fingers. I've been doing a lot of writing letters to try to use up some of these inks in preparation for September, and I've been making a lovely mess of it. And so nib and flow, you have a letter coming to you, and you will see a lovely little ink splotch, and that's part of it. But yeah, I love fountain pens and I love inks. So for August, these are the pens that I started out with, and this is what I swatched at the beginning of August. So I had the Pelikan M400 Sovereign with an extra fine nib, and that was inked up with a sample from an Ink Flight box that was Diamine and Cult Pens collaboration called Coliseum. This lovely kind of sandy brown. This was a carryover from July, and I still have the tiniest little bit of ink left in this. So it's currently the 26th. Happy birthday to my mom. So I imagine I likely will be able to use up the rest of this ink, but if not, I'll just go ahead and flush it and clean it. The next one that I had inked up with was my Narwhal Nautilus in Grand Rhapsody with a fine nib. And I started this one off with Sailor Ink Studio 123 and immediately noticed that the coloring was different. Now here's where you're going to see me bounce around a little bit. Apologies, but that's kind of how this video goes. So let me just move some things to make space. And kind of spoiler alert, there were some things that were added. So this is the Sailor Ink Studio 123 and the Narwhal Grand Rhapsody. And so you can see here, this was the beginning of the month swatch with that kind of very bright teal, and even putting that next to it. But as I wrote with it, it did get more of that purple that I think we all know and love about Sailor Ink Studio 123. And then as I went later in the month and used that pen, this is what it looked like. So I find that to be fascinating. Look at that. Same pen, same ink, two very different colors. So on the 10th, I finished that pen up, and I was visiting friends in Connecticut who gifted me a new ink. And so that ink was Robert Oster, and it was a Robert Oster Atlas Stationer exclusive called Vampire Pigeon, which is this really nice kind of blood red, little bit of black sheening around the edges, and there is a shimmer in it, which you can see a little bit. Well, maybe you can't see, but there is a shimmer. And I really loved this color. Again, not a color that I probably would have picked out myself, but I really love it. So I added that in right here. So there's the Grand Rhapsody with Sailor Ink Studio 123, and here is the Grand Rhapsody with Robert Oster Vampire Pigeon. And I think I just did that. Yes, I just did this journal entry spread, and then I wrote a couple of pen pal letters and did, I have another journal that I write in that I do not show on this channel, but I did use this pen in that journal. So that is close to empty. I'm trying to see if I can get, yeah, you can start to see through the portholes. But there is a little bit of ink sloshing in there. So again, I'm likely going to be able to use this up, but this will be cleaned out at the end of the month. All right, so next up is the Narwhal Nautilus Voyage line in Tromsø, or Northern Lights. And this pen absolutely has grown on me over the course of the month. I've started to really see that pearlescent purple come through and appreciate the smaller bits of green and how subtle that is, and the swirlings of black. My dog just entered the room. Hi, Bubbers. Hi. Yeah. So the ink window is right here. You can see a little bit of the Robert Oster Polar Vortex, which is another Atlas Stationer exclusive. So this is one that I probably will do tomorrow and the day after journal spread in this, and likely be able to use it up and clean it out. What I love about this color, and I actually ended up doing some journal entries almost side by side. So here's the Narwhal Tromsø. And so it's got this beautiful shading. It's this really nice gray with a little hint of purple. Absolutely gorgeous color. But I put it right next to the Esterbrook Estie, which has Diamine Earl Grey. And it is a very similar color. Very similar. The difference is that kind of little bit of purple that comes through, but it's a very similar color. So for those of you that love Diamine Earl Grey, I believe you will really like Robert Oster Polar Vortex, which again is a Atlas Stationer exclusive. All right, and so next up is Laban Rosa in Lilac. And this one is inked up with Ferris Wheel Press Glistening Glass, which is a really lovely, and I did that one next. This really nice gray with a bit of blue to it, and it has a gold shimmer. And as is fairly typical, the shimmer comes out better earlier on in a writing session and gets a little bit less as the writing session goes on. I am a starter and a stopper typically when I am doing my journaling, but you can an entry like this one, I actually did, I believe, write it in one session, because you can see the glitter or the shimmer up here, and then there's really no shimmer down here. But excellent shading on this ink, absolutely excellent. And there's something about the nib on a Laban Rosa that I really enjoy writing with. It's very, to me, it feels very flexible and very soft. And I love my handwriting with the Laban Rosa. So that was a joy to write with. This one has this much ink left. So again, I believe you can see that gold shimmer. I believe I will be finishing this up this month and cleaning it out. It's getting towards the end of the month, but I have confidence. Let me just close this door. Sorry about that. All right, next up, and I did bring, and I don't ever bring this into videos, but I did bring my 5-year, because my next pen is the Esterbrook collaboration with Ferris Wheel Press Nebulous Plume. And I have this inked up with the Esterbrook Nebulous Blue, the exclusive ink that came with it. And I used that ink in my Hobonichi 5-year this month. So it has a beautiful pink shimmer. It has a little bit of a sheen to it. It is an absolutely lovely ink to write with. It's a lovely pen to write with. This Esterbrook, running out of space here. It is a gold plated nib, so it does feel a little bit different than my other Esterbrook nib, and it is an extra fine. My other one was a fine nib, but even though it's an extra fine, it handles the shimmer really, really, really well. So I am very impressed with this pen. Now, I did already run out of this ink. And instead of refilling it, what I'm doing each day for my 5-year is I'm actually dipping it and writing. And last night I did a whole entry on the dip from the prior day, and it didn't dry out. And so I will be writing with it again today and see how far I can get without re-dipping. But I think the cap sleeve helps to keep it moistened as opposed to drying out. So I was very impressed with that. As I've come accustomed to, Esterbrook has excellent quality. So love that. Now, I mentioned my other Esterbrook in a fine nib. This is the Esterbrook Sea Glass with a silver trim, and this has a fine nib on it. And this was inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. It has pretty much been emptied. I actually am going to consider this empty because I'm not going to be able to get a journal entry out of this. So yes, that will be cleaned out maybe today. Oh, here's the Pelikan M400. Look at that beautiful, beautiful ink. So again, here's the Tromso, here's the Esterbrook SD with Diamine Earl Grey, which is a really, really nice gray, excellent shading. Just really, really love this pen and this ink as well. And I also love that it's not super matchy-matchy, but I feel that gray can go with just about anything. And then this month, we added a couple of new pens because it was my birthday month. So the first pen is one that I actually purchased because we were supposed to go to Yoseka Stationery in New York City and we didn't go. And then I found out that the Commonwealth Pen Show in the middle of September was canceled due to staffing issues at the hotel. And so I knew I would be purchasing pens on both of those occasions. I really considered getting the Platinum 3776 Shape of Heart, which would have Swarovski crystals up here on this finial, as well as 2 hidden hearts that were stamped out for the breathe hole on the pen. But that price, as I kept looking at it, I could not justify spending that much on a pen just for kind of a gimmick. And really what I wanted is this white pen with the gold trim in this cigar shape body style to have a platinum 14 karat nib. So that is what I got, and I did get it on sale through Atlas Stationers on Stationery Day, so it was 15% off, and I also purchased an accompanying bottle of ink, and I have been spelling Waringal wrong. Huge apologies. I will get it right, I promise. And so this, I inked it up with Mad Hatter, which is the accompanying Waringal ink. And I just saw on another YouTube channel, was it Daisy Diaries, who just did a gray-green ink swatching video. But they actually had wearing Gold Mad Hatter as one of the gray-green inks, and for whatever reason, that video made me view this ink so differently. So here's a journaling spread with this ink. Because it is a Japanese fine nib, it is very fine. So I've really enjoyed writing with it. I could see this being kind of a everyday carry, maybe putting in a dark gray or a black, and you know, this being something that I use for kind of work stuff and paperwork. But I love it, and the shading on this ink is absolutely stunning. And even though it's a fine, very fine nib, it flows fairly well, fairly wet, and yeah, just love it so much. So that was a new pen to my collection. And then the other new pen, actually, I don't know that I've done a journal entry yet with this pen. I have not. Okay. So the other new pen is the Esterbrook SD Petrified Forest with an extra fine nib, and this one has gold trim. And it has the Esterbrook logo on the gold trim, and this is inked up with Auto Hut, which I guess left one of the T's off of Hut, apologies. Gold Dust, and it's this really nice corally, like a deep coral ink with a gold or copper shimmer to it. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, I have been, even though I haven't done a journal entry here, but I have been writing with it. Look at that, it's so beautiful. And I did a couple of pen pal letters with this ink, so it's absolutely lovely to write with. There's something very different about writing with this nib, this extra fine nib, as opposed to the Sea Glass Fine. I would categorize this as a really buttery nib or buttery writing experience, and this has a little bit more feedback. Not scratchy, but just toothiness on the page. You feel it on the page. I really like it, but it's even a different writing experience than the Esterbrook Ferris Wheel Press collaboration with a gold-plated nib. This is still on the buttery side as opposed to this one. So I'm really excited that I have the extra fine nib in the steel nib through Esterbrook. And it does really well with a shimmer ink, surprisingly. So I really enjoyed that. And the color, again, beautiful. Probably not something I would have picked out on my own, which is why I love getting gifted different inks, because it takes me out of my comfort zone and I tend to really like it. So those were my pens and inks for this month. Now, I'll bring these all out. And I'm going to organize them a little bit. So I've got 2 narwhals or novelers. I have a Laban. I've got 2 Esterbrook SDs, but I'm also going to group the Ferris Wheel Press SD collaboration with that. And I've got my Pelikan, and I have my Platinum. Now, with these pens, if I were to pick one that I guess I would say enjoyed the least, I might, surprisingly, have to go with my Pelikan M400, but only because I think the ink color was a little bit lighter than what I would have wanted. And I think that that highlights why it took me 2 months to get through that Now for next month, I am thinking that I'm likely going to put sandstone back in there, but I might also put distressed leather from Birmingham Pen Company and see how that goes. I will also say this is too many pens inked up for me, especially in a month that I didn't work half the month. By the way, this pen right now just looks absolutely gorgeous. Love it, love it, love it, love it. The way that the light is hitting it for me is perfection. Anyway, so this one might be my least favorite pen and ink combination for this month. I think my favorite pen and ink combination for this month was probably the Laban Rosa with Ferris Wheel Press Glistening Glass. I never had a hard start. The shimmer never clogged the feed. It had excellent shading. It was comfortable. So that was a combination that I really, really, really loved. Now let's think about which pen was the most comfortable to write with. And I would have to go with the Narwhal Nautilus line. The size of the pen, the grip section, how it pops up just a little bit right here, it just fits perfectly for me. So that's probably my most comfortable writing experience. Of these pens that are currently here, there wasn't one that was least comfortable or uncomfortable at all. It did take me a moment with the the Platinum 3776 just to figure out if I wanted to write with it posted or unposted. But really, anytime I write with it, I'm enjoying it very much. One thing that I don't like about this pen is that sound right there. And I keep opening it up and pushing the converter in, but there's kind of this click. While I'm writing, doesn't ever do anything, and then I think my other thing that I'll point out is that I really, really, really loved the ink flow out of the Nebulous Plume Extra Fine. Given that it's an extra fine and it was a shimmer ink, it just flowed absolutely gorgeous, absolutely perfectly. So, highly recommend these inks. Oh, you know what? If I were to say, let me just pull this over here. If I were to pick a favorite ink from this, oof, it's gonna be a tough pick. I love them all so much. I guess I might have to go with Robert Oster Polar Vortex. But a surprising one that I'm being drawn to is the Robert Oster Vampire Pigeon. Just again, the shading, the black around the edges of the letters, very, very, very nice. Oh, yeah, I could keep these pen and ink combinations going and be very, very happy. So I'm probably not helping anyone narrow down their their choices at all. But I love these pens so much. Love these pens. And I'm tempted to ink some of them up and use them again next month because they're just so lovely. and I know I'm missing out on some of my other pens. It's such a dilemma. Anyway, so that's kind of my review of my August Currently Inked with the inclusion of some new pens in the lineup. So these are the 2 new pens. And I'll even, I guess, move this over here because this was a birthday pen. I just got it early from my lovely, lovely neighbor. Yeah. And part of my focus going into this month of September is I'm starting a new job. I'm likely going to be taking a lot of notes. So I want to have comfortable pens, and I want to have inks that are going to be reliable. So I probably will not be using a shimmer ink in September, just because I don't want to be in a position where I pull out a pen and it does get clogged with shimmer for any reason. So comfortable, non-shimmer, probably some good shading just so that I enjoy what I'm writing down. And I probably will pull in a black. That might be my plot twist, is to have just a basic black, perhaps the Diatramentus document ink black, just as I acclimate to this new role and what my needs are going to be writing wise during the workday. So thank you for watching. If you stuck around to the end, thank you so much. And if you like this content, please subscribe so that you are notified when I post other videos. All right, bye.